want to test your memory. It has to do with a tape like this. Every week for 7 seasons, a tape would assign a mission to the IM Force. Explicit instructions were given for that particular week's adventure, and then in 5 short seconds, the tape would self-destruct. Now, before it does, let's introduce some of the members of the IM team as we continue our reunion series from one of television's most honored and popular shows, Mission Impossible. Please welcome Martin Landau, Greg Morris, and Peter Lupus. Okay. Have all of you seen each other in the years since? I'm sure you have.
Off and on.
Yeah, I haven't seen Marty since last week.
Yeah, we see each other.
Oh, you do?
Rick's living in Vegas these days, so we see him less.
Yeah. Is it true that Lucille Ball discovered Mission, or really was the one that
It was
came up with the idea?
because of Lucy.
Lucy,
that the show went on.
Lucy had. We started with Desilu, and Lucy owned Desilu, and
Yeah.
of course she sold it to Paramount ultimately. But she wanted to get a couple of shows on, so she got Mission on the same year as she got Star Trek on. Both of those shows started together. We were neighbors.
Yeah, right.
Shooting at the same time during that period.
So she was responsible.
She was responsible.
During the time she had the studio, she was also responsible for Mannix. So she had Mission Impossible, Star Trek, and Mannix.
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 All at the same time.
I do remember a dear and very talented man by the name of Bruce Geller.
Yes.
Who was the original producer that really was responsible for the show having
Who was the brains?
Yes.
Yeah,
He
behind
was the
it.
brains, yes.
Yeah.
Bruce passed away a couple of years ago in an airplane crash. We were kind of
Unfortunately,
shocked
yeah.
by it all.
Yeah.
Also, I must say this, one of the reasons that Mission stayed on, because when we first went on the air, the time slot that we had, the competing networks, because as you well know, competition is the name of the game, they were throwing John Wayne, Apple Pie, Mom, the American Flag, everything against us. And William Paley, who is the man at CBS, more than once in a board meeting said that Mission was his favorite show, not just because it was on his network, which means like God saying, here comes lightning, move, right?
Yes.
So they said, let's move it around because the boss wants us to keep it on the air.
Yes.
And then we picked up, in the first year, I think we were nominated for what, 11 Emmys?
13.
Something like that. As a matter of fact, the network originally said that no one would sit still for this show. If they went to the John or they went to the refrigerator or answered the phone, they wouldn't be able to understand what was going on. And we said, don't underestimate them. And the show proved to be, a very... And I think that the credit is, these guys were great on the show, and I felt, yes, you become familiar with characters, but it was the kind of show I feel that could have lived without anybody, actually.
Yeah, well, that's a tribute to the concept, and
Yes,
certainly
yeah,
to
absolutely.
Bruce Geller and Lucy, bless her heart, for finding it, bringing it to the attention of the studio. Another thing it did, and it did something.
We
very
also had some great guest stars like your wife.
Oh, I remember that.
She was on it very early on.
Very early, yeah.
My wife
And Monty Markham was
on that show.
Was a Hungarian.
That's what started it.
Part.
A
His
Hungarian
first part on
soldier.
television. It was his first. He did with Marianne and Barbara. That he told
He
me
broke
one
up the
time.
fight.
Well, that was his first part when he came from
First
New York
part
on
ever.
television.
He's the only one who could break up.
But the thing the message that you got from this show, and it was something very subliminal, and that was here was a black fella who could go with ease across borders, dressed in all sorts of Eastern Bloc uniforms, and
Yes.
nobody
Noticed.
ever noticed.
That shows you what kind of an actor he was.
I was a hell of a good actor, right?
Well, they knew I had a razor in my pocket.
No, but that was obviously by design.
Yes, it
and,
was.
and if I remember going back, nobody said a lot about that.
No.
No.
Why?
Well, I weighed 250 at the time, and I protected him.
He was always on my right hip, you see.
Yeah.
So when he came through the door after me, they said, don't leave him alone.
Yeah. But it was a real positive image.
Yes, it
is
was.
what I'm trying to say.
The only leading actor who had been black before that was Bill Cosby. And a lot of the southern stations didn't handle the show at that time, if you remember. It took a while for that to happen. And I just think it was, Greg being an intelligent actor and an intelligent guy presented a very intelligent person in that context.
Also in the concept, there was never any... Bruce Geller and I had luncheon together for 3 hours. After,
Luncheon?
Yes, luncheon.
It was a
I only
long
have
lunch.
lunch.
Oh, don't you start talking about eating.
Southern lunch.
This one over here, 2 hours for oysters. I mean, you know, what are you going to have, money? Well, I'll start with the oysters, then I'll have the crab. Bring me the blade.
He believed all that stuff.
Lucas doesn't eat anything.
I drink protein drink. I've got to tell you something about Greg, though. You know how serious he comes off on that show. For 7 years, I was never able to have him off camera. I could not look at his face because he had 1,000 different... You know what? He'd always try to crack me up on my close-ups.
And I'd always win.
So, yeah, but I would look at his forehead, his nose, his chest, anything but his eyes.
Play a lot of practical jokes on one another.
Every,
don't you?
Oh, yeah.
every day at
Is
him.
this the ringleader?
No, we, no, all of us.
We all did.
We all did.
We made him think for 2 weeks that he was losing his hair. We used to pick on Loop a lot. I heard him once say, he came in and he said to makeup, so I saw the show Sunday night, said, put more rouge on. I looked a little yellow. So every time we'd get into a scene, I would say, makeup. I said, geez, I said, he looks like he's got yellow jaundice. We had him looking like Cochise there for about 2 weeks.
It was bad.
We used to take a pool, as a matter of fact. When Pete used to sit down, he used to stay up late in those days, he'd fall asleep. Within
I
a minute.
rest in between
Within
shots.
a minute. Now, most people, when they fall asleep or nod off, their head goes like this, but not Luke, you know. So we used to take a pool within 60 seconds. Take numbers from 1 to 60 to see
when he would fall
When
asleep.
I do, Gary, I didn't want anybody to
He'd pick
know I
up the
was
trade
sleeping.
papers and he'd go off.
I'd act like I was reading a paper so nobody'd know I was napping, you know. So Barbara caught me one day, and she says, well, are you napping? And I said, yeah, I woke up and I said no. So about 3 days later, she had got the whole crew around me, and they were taking pictures. And I was asleep
With the paper.
tapped me on the shoulder, and I woke up and I'm surrounded.
Is there going to be a reunion show, perhaps?
Well, NBC's been talking to
They've been
Paramount
talking
for 2
about it.
years.
They've been
Yeah.
talking about it.
I would like to see that. Everybody would like to see that. Yeah.
It would be
I
fun.
wish-
Right, NBC,
There's-
folks.
but
All right,
on a
it's a good idea.
serious note, there's only one thing, and I haven't had a chance to talk with Marty about it, but Lupus and Graves and I have discussed it kind of briefly. We will always have, if we do it again, we will always have that presence of Bruce Geller in the back of our heads.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
that was the man that put it all together, man. And
Absolutely.
that was his baby.
Well, our thoughts are with Bruce today, and certainly our thoughts are with you as you sit here, and it's just been terrific for taking us back and making us realize that there were some terrific moments on television. Thanks to the three of you.
Thank you.